Hi, everybody. I brought a picture from home. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but it goes way back to 1961. It was painted by a great American artist, Norman Rockwell, for the cover of the Saturday Evening Post, no relative, by the way. It's called The Golden Rule, and you can see across the center where it says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." You know, it's not the minimal version of the Golden Rule that doesn't really take a lot of effort. Do not do unto others as you would not have them do unto you. That just means that you need to get home tonight. You can put your feet up and say to yourself, I had a good day because I didn't walk up next to some innocent wayfarer and elbow them in the ribs. It doesn't take a lot to do no harm. But this is a much deeper and more idealistic version of the rule. It requires us to use our moral imaginations, asking ourselves very creatively, how can we contribute to the lives of the people around us? If you look at the people in this picture, they come from every imaginable tradition. There are Shintos and Buddhists and Hindus and Jews and Jains and Christians and Muslims. Even in the middle, there's that secular existentialist with his blue jean jacket on, rubbing his chin. Maybe he just read a little bit of Jean-Paul Sartre. There are young people and old people, men and women, people of every complexion and every ethnicity. And there they are. Rockwell was calling us to envision with him a common or a shared humanity, the right kind of oneness. Now you look at the faces of these individuals. They look so calm. There's a serenity about them, a tranquility about them. Scientists these days know that when you just contemplate giving and doing good for others, a part of the brain gets active, a very deeply evolved, ancient part of the brain, the emotional part of the brain. This is called, don't write it down, the mesolimbic pathway. And it's associated with feelings of joy and fulfillment and social trust, and even doles out one of the big four happiness chemicals. So there you have it. We're somehow wired when we think about what we can do to help others to get into a state of well-being and a deep inner peace, not just the elimination of conflict, but a kind of deep internal peacefulness. And you can see it on every one of those faces. Now remember, this was 1961. It was before the Civil Rights Movement. It was very controversial. Somehow this brilliant artist put this symbol of a shared humanity out before the American public and helped shape our consciousness for what was to come. It's so beautiful. Now, you can ask yourself, when you think about doing good, when you engage in helping activities, do you reap any benefits, even unintended benefits? Are you surprised by feeling healthier and happier? Well, there are old people in that picture. Lots of studies now show that when older adults get involved in volunteering, even just a couple of hours a week, they tend to have lower levels of depression, lower levels of anxiety. And if you look at these big population studies over 20 years or 15 years or 25 years, the older adults who are involved in helping activities outlive those who aren't by a year or two. There might be some widows and widowers in this picture. Some colleagues of mine did a study a few years ago of happily married individuals. They lose a spouse. They go through a period of grief and bereavement. It's very difficult for them. They get through that quicker and in a more enduring fashion if they can self-report helping activities, not formal volunteerism, just doing helpful things in the neighborhood. So I got a call from a Society of Widows and Widowers in New York. They asked me to give a talk at their annual convention on this topic. So I gave a talk. And at the end, we had questions and answers. Well, there was a guy in the back, and he raised his hand up high, and he said, "I don't care what you say, buddy. I don't do nothing for nothing." And I couldn't respond. All I could think was, he's so limited by this pay-it-back attitude. He's calculating. It's tit for tat. It's reciprocal gain. If he just let that go, he would be free, and he would discover the benefits of being a giver, of being freed from a lot of destructive, negative emotions that are like acid on metal. Rumination, hostility, anger, and so forth. He would come into a new being. Now, I could go on for hours and hours, and I'm not going to bother you with this, but trust me, it's good to be good. In San Francisco, geriatric physicians, clinics for older adults, actually recommend to their patients that they be involved in volunteering activities. There are many clinics now for adolescents, pediatric clinics, and they recommend that adolescents get involved in this kind of activity for very clear health-related reasons. So I got here to Stony Brook in the summer of 2008, after 20 years in Cleveland, Ohio. I got a call that summer from United Healthcare, which is a big managed care program. And they said, "Is this good to be good stuff real? Are you kidding us?" So they went ahead and they did a national survey. They did the survey at the beginning of 2010, and they're looking back over the year 2009. Randomly, they sampled adult Americans, 5,000 of them. They asked, "Did you volunteer in 2009? 41% had volunteered. How much? Not a lot. On average, about 100 hours a year. Break it down, that might be a couple of hours a week. It's a pretty low threshold." And then they asked questions. Did volunteering make you happier? 96% said yes. America's not too happy right now. We're way, way down in the low 30s on these international happiness scales that get published every year out of the UK. Places like Mozambique that are simple, a little less materialistic, and where people have expected pro-social generative activities. They're actually doing pretty well, better than we are. Do you feel physically healthier when you volunteer? 68% said yes. That's kind of like going on a low-carbo diet for a few days. Are you with me? And you suddenly feel more energetic, more robust, a little more power. It's a very interesting and reliable medical finding. So that's great. How about this? Stress. 73% of the people in this study said they felt less stressed. Think about how much illness and disease, from depression to asthma, is related to stress. Anxiety, 76% said volunteering lowered their anxiety. People said that volunteering made better friendships for them, that their friends weren't just the people they partied with or hung out with, but now their friends share their values and they support one another. And these friendships are deeper and more meaningful than any of their earlier friendships. But now here's something pretty profound. 78% of Americans say that volunteering helps them recover from loss and disappointment. So you see, this picture isn't just for the good times, not just for the happy times, because agree with me, life is full of peaks and valleys. We all experience disappointments. We navigate some hardships in life, and we always will. It's not just smooth sailing. You know, I was up in Newtown, Connecticut. 20 children and 6 adults were killed. Sandy Hook. You know, I looked at the bumper stickers on the buses and the cars. I looked at the stickers on the windows in the stores. I looked at the stickers in the doorways in the neighborhoods. And you know what they said? They said, "We are Sandy Hook. We choose love. We are Sandy Hook. We choose love." They chose love in the hardest of times. There's a wonderful old book by Viktor Frankl, a psychologist who was in a prison camp during World War II. And he said he got through it because he could share whatever little bit of food he had with people who looked more emaciated than he did. And he said that by giving he found hope, and by hope he was able to survive. So this is not just for the good times, it's for all the times in your lives. What kind of love are they talking about in Sandy Hook? Well, it's not the love of chocolate, although I like chocolate. I hope you do. It's not just the love of designer jeans. I have a definition of love for you. When the happiness and the well-being and the security of another person is as real to you as your own, you love that person. And there are lots of ways to express this. Put that at the hub of a wheel, have spokes going out. Some people express love through compassion, some through attentive listening, some through creative arts, some through forgiveness, some through what I call carefrontation. They're the friends you want because they keep you from going off course and doing things that are completely contrary to your core values. But I want to lift this up. I want to transpose all this to a much higher key and just get away from your individual health and well-being. I want to talk about the state of the whole world. You look at big history, and people have been seeking oneness for a long time. There's something about human nature, we seek oneness. Sometimes we seek it the way Rockwell asked us to seek it. We overcome all those in-group, out-group barriers. We get humble. We don't think that other people have to believe what we believe in order to count. We affirm a shared dignity that is not bestowed but inherent just by virtue of being a human being. We overcome racial barriers, ethnic barriers, religious barriers, gender barriers, class barriers, every barrier, and we get to a common humanity. You know what the Zen Buddhist said to the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything. That's right there in this picture. But human beings have been seeking oneness in a very different way. You read about it in the papers every day. It may keep you up at night. It may give you a little dyspepsia. They seek oneness through elimination, through genocide, through extermination, through incredible brutalism that is unspeakable. And your future is going to depend on you taking a risk. I want everyone here to take a risk. You don't have to be like Rabin, the leader in Israel who loved Jews and Muslims and Christians and everybody and was assassinated by a radical Jew. You don't have to be a Mrs. Bhutto and get assassinated by an extreme Islamicist. You don't have to be a Martin Luther King who loved all humanity, who wrote beautiful philosophical treatises about how we're all connected, even if we're not aware of it. What happens over there in the Middle East affects Germany, and it affects England, and it affects the United States, and even the city of Detroit. We're all connected. You can't say we're not anymore. The world has gotten too small. But King, of course, was killed by a white supremacist. The list goes on. Gandhi, Lincoln, I won't bother you with it. But the point is that people sometimes feel very threatened if you love everyone and not just some small fraction of humanity. So a little bit of wisdom. It's pretty simple. When I was a boy growing up, I went up to high school in Concord, New Hampshire. And I had the honor of listening to Norman Rockwell, the great American artist, talk about this picture. And he pointed out that in the middle, there's a halo. Do you see that? Do you see the white shawl on the rabbi, the bearded rabbi? And then on the left, you've got the nun with her white robe, and it goes around in a circle. He thought that the energy of pure, unselfish love was a kind of white circle. He was very mystical, and he had these kinds of views. But what he said was that, I don't care what you believe, what faith tradition you have or don't have. If you just live by this golden rule, you will come into whatever spirituality is worth having. So my challenge for you all is to live inside that halo. And if you do, you will be surprised. You will be surprised by a joy that is much deeper and more enduring and profound than mere happiness. Because happiness is so contingent and dependent on external variables. But if you live this kind of life, you'll discover a joy, and you'll discover a hope that is far beyond mere optimism. So, with everybody in Sandy Hook, I'd like you as a group to say with me these words now. We choose love. Are you ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3. We choose love. That wasn't loud enough. Are you ready? One more time. We choose love. Thank you. I'm going to pick up my picture and put it home over the fireplace. Thanks.